If you look at the most difficult commands God gives in Scripture, they rarely involve a call to arms or a massive construction project. More often, the hardest thing He asks us to do is simply stop moving and wait. For most of us, that pause creates an immediate internal friction. We have a deep human drive to control the outcome. When we're forced into a holding pattern, our instinct is to grab the wheel and fix the situation ourselves. We tend to view waiting as a form of passive helplessness, a period of wasted time where we are sidelined while the real action happens elsewhere. But Ruth's story suggests something different. It hints that physical stillness can be a highly demanding spiritual task. This silence is where the real work begins. Yesterday, we saw Boaz act with absolute honor on the threshing floor. He protected Ruth's reputation and provided for her future, sending her home under the cover of early morning light with a heavy measure of barley. When Ruth walked back into Bethlehem that morning, she was stepping back into her ordinary reality, but everything had changed. Ruth had committed everything to this path of faith. She had left her home, her culture, and her safety. Yet, as she walked through those stone streets, the promise of redemption was still just words. Nothing was legally settled yet. It's a vulnerable space to inhabit. How do you hold yourself together in the gap between taking a step of faith and seeing the actual result? Ruth reached home and unloaded the grain, laying out the physical proof of Boaz's favor before Naomi. She recounted every word spoken in the dark, relaying the exact promise Boaz had made. You can imagine the adrenaline Ruth was feeling, the nervous desire to know what happens next. But Naomi remains remarkably calm. She listens to the report with a quiet, grounded confidence. Instead of suggesting a new plan or a follow-up visit, Naomi gives Ruth a directive that goes against every natural impulse. She tells her to stay home and do nothing. Naomi tells her, "Sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall, for the man will not be in rest until he have finished the thing this day." Naomi understood the logic of the situation. Ruth had finished her part. The responsibility had shifted entirely to Boaz, their kinsman redeemer. He was the one who had to handle the legalities at the city gate. This is where the pressure hits. Relinquishing control when the stakes are highest is one of the most taxing things we can do. It's the point where our faith is actually tested. When we are placed in a waiting room, our first impulse is usually to meddle. We want to help God move things along or secure a backup plan just in case He doesn't act on our timeline. We mistake waiting for helplessness. In reality, biblical stillness requires a high degree of spiritual stamina. It is the choice to stay engaged with God even when our hands aren't busy. Trust is the deepest form of engagement with God. It isn't a lack of action, it's a relocation of our energy from fixing to believing. Stillness is a deliberate choice. It's trusting that God is working in the background, arranging details and hearts that we could never reach on our own. How does this look in practice? How do you wait on God today without falling into cynicism or burning out from the anxiety of the unknown? It starts by acknowledging a simple truth. God's perceived slowness is never a sign that He is indifferent. A delay doesn't mean He's asleep or that He has forgotten the promise. Our capacity to wait is tied to our knowledge of His character. If we don't believe He is good, we will never be able to sit still. This is why the command in Psalm 46 is so specific. Be still and know that I am God. The stillness is actually the prerequisite for the knowledge. You have to take the posture of stillness in order to recognize His authority. You quiet the noise of your own plans so you can finally see His. Identify the situation in your life right now that you are trying to manage by force. The relationship, the career move, or the financial outcome that keeps you up at night. Release your grip on it. Place it firmly in God's hands and step back. While you practice trust in the quiet of your home, God is already at work at the gate. He is moving on your behalf in ways you cannot see yet. Choosing to sit still is a definitive act of faith. It creates the space for God to complete the redeeming work that we could never finish on our own.